So what we're going to look at here is advanced legato in, for this example, cinematic studio solo strings. This applies to most advanced sample sets. When you use legato, it sounds a lot better. It gives a realistic sound to your instruments. However, it requires you to delay the track by some significant amount in order to give it lead time for that to happen. Now, in this case with cinematic studio solo strings, slow legato is 333 milliseconds of delay. It requires minus 333. But I'm going to play this, and you'll get an idea of how it sounds. And there are some caveats involved with doing that that do not occur to you at first, but you'll run into those. Let me play this first regular sustain. That sounds decent enough. However, you'll hear once I start to change this to legato, it's going to sound a lot better. So the first thing we need to do is get some overlap because these notes are not overlapping. So I'm going to go into my smart legato function here and just let it globally do that. Now we have overlaps. And the overlap amount doesn't matter as long as you have overlaps. I'm going to turn on legato here and I'm going to go advanced. Now, with this instrument, in order to get legato speed, the legato speed is determined by velocity. I'm going to pull this down to make it slow. Let's play this to make sure we have slow legato. And you can see there the speed is slow. And you can vary that, but it gets a little tricky when you do that. But so right now we're at slow legato. Now, when I turn on the metronome, you'll hear how far this thing is out of time. So in order to put this back in time, we have to go back 333 milliseconds, which is a third of a second. It's a pretty big delay. Now when I play this, it'll be back in time again. That sounds much better with legato. It sounds much more realistic and it's really smooth. Now here's one of the caveats. I just delayed this entire track by 333 milliseconds. However, leading notes like this note is not legato, which means this note is going to play 333 milliseconds early. That's one of the caveats of doing this. In order to compensate for that, to put this note back in time, I have to shift it by 333 milliseconds. But let's play it with the metronome and you'll hear how early it is. All right, so in order to do that, what I did was I wrote myself a little offset function here for my toolbar and select this note. It's going to offset this note by the whatever amount is in the track delay here. In this case, 333. I'm going to click offset. It shifts it by 333. Now, when I play this, it's going to be back in time. And just as a reminder, when you're doing this kind of editing, before you start doing this kind of editing, you should duplicate the track layer to keep a copy of the original track because it's not going to sound correct when you play it with a regular MIDI instrument anymore. So you want to keep the original copy just in case. Well, let's play this, and this note now should be in time. Now, these types of notes where you have kind of a rebow, hitting the same note twice. You can, if you want to, also adjust those, but if it sounds okay, leave it alone. But I would go through and find any leading notes that are not legato. For instance, this one for sure, and offset that one so it'll play in time. And there's not many in this particular performance. There's only a few. But that is one of the major caveats. Once you add track delay, you have to account for notes that do not have a leading legato overlap. It's going to throw all those notes out of time. But I think we're good now. So as you can see, that advanced legato function sounds really great, but it does have a couple of caveats you have to be aware of, and hopefully that video would help you to avoid some of those pitfalls.